Right. So brothers and sisters, if you're here with us, the 70 of us who are gathered here, and if you could turn on your video so that Luang Por can see you, would like to now formally pay respects to Luang Por. This very, very, very special occasion. Luang Por, we're all gathered here from the northern and southern hemisphere and all around the world on a very, very special day on 2024, the 27th of April in 2024 in the Southern Hemisphere. And it is a special day because here in this part of the world, we began to commemorate a special occasion of your birthday. So we'd like to now formally pay respects to you and then offer today's teachings to you, to your well-being, and to your good health. So brothers and sisters, let us put our palms together and then chant together. Araham Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Avivademi. Swatato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Subhadipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. So for those who've just joined us, we'd like to invite you to turn your video on. So I'd like to invite Luang Por to have it, to flip his screen and see who is on screen. So that he can
to show you, is it?
Yeah.
Flicking screen is not so easy. Flicking screen is major operation, but we have a monk sneaking around here, the Venerable Padipo, who I know very well. I think we just do it. Yeah, come on. There he is. Can you see that? Oops.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah. So
that's Venerable Padipo, our Mexican monk.
Right. Okay. Great. So Luang Por, we do have a special session today before we begin. We'd like to invite everybody to unmute if you can, because I'm gonna ask you to unmute, and we will begin the session by from. Oh, sorry. Mute yourself first. Mute yourself first. Yeah. I would like to formally request. Forgiveness from Luang Por, right? By performing a ceremony of request for forgiveness chant.
You've done nothing. You've done nothing wrong.
We're done. Well, just by being in your presence, Luang Por, on so many.
I haven't seen you since December.
Oh, not just that. Luang Por, whether it is through body, speech, or mind, with all our acquaintances and interactions with you throughout your 77 years of life.
Peter, I will love you wherever.
But you must also love all my friends here, Luang Por.
I do.
Yeah. So
okay, please. I'm just being facetious. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I believe a basket of flowers is being prepared over there, and Venerable will also help us in that process.
This is the flowers.
Okay.
So he's already offered them. That bit's done. That's your bit.
Not yet. So we have to do this properly, Luang Por. Please let us do this properly.
Please go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So
suspense is killing me.
Okay. So now, please, brothers and sisters, let us take 3 bows and then we'll chant Namo Tassa. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. If you're ready, Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Please bow and repeat after me. Mahatheve Pamadena Dwaratayen Katam Sabang Aparadam Kamatubovante. Mahatheve Pamadena Dwaratayen Katam Sabang Aparadam Kamatubovante. Mahatheve Pamadena Dwaratayena Katam Sabang Aparadam Kamatuno Bante.
Aham kamami tumhe ipime kambitapang.
Kama Bante.
May all your hopes and longings come true. May all your wishes be fulfilled. May all misfortune be avoided. May all illness be dispelled. May you be happy and live long. May every blessing come to be, and all good spirits guard you well. By the power of all Buddhas, by the power of all Dhammas, by the power of all Sanghas, may you always be at ease. May every blessing come to be, and all good spirits guard you well.
Sadhu.
There you go.
Okay, so now this is the chaotic part. We'd like
This
to
is the
yeah, this is going to be the chaotic part. We're going to invite everybody to unmute themselves, and then we're going to be singing a happy birthday song.
right. Okay. Look forward to this. Don't record this.
Don't record this. And
Put on an album.
it's so hard to coordinate this, and I've got corporates in the monastery now. I've got the pamphlets in the monastery. They're helping me with it.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So brothers and sisters, let us all now wish Luang Por a 77th birthday, and we're all going to be singing together from the northern and southern hemisphere. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy
Happy birthday, Luang Por.
Wow, that's
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday, Luang Por. Happy birthday.
Happy
you can
birthday.
put out an album with that.
Birthday.
Happy birthday.
Right. Okay, that was fun. So what now?
Happy birthday, Luang Por.
Thank you, Monica.
Okay.
How about a desana? Oh no, how about a meditation? That'll cool us down. Yeah?
Yeah.
So
Luang Por
let's meditate for half an hour. Is that, or have you got something else, Peter?
No, so we'd like to now formally request that you will start the session by offering us a meditation, and then we would then request for a birthday.
My pleasure. Okay. So take a meditation posture. My sound okay, everyone? Yeah?
Yeah.
Mita? Sounds good? Okay. So sit comfortably. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes, listen to sound. Listen to sound, let sound come to you. And in your listening, just wait. Just wait. Notice the sound. Notice the silence of awareness. Just wait. Feel your hands, tactile sensations in your hands. Let that become conscious. And just wait. And notice the silence of awareness. Listen to sound. Wait. Notice silence. Feel your hands. Wait. Same silence of awareness. Sensations in your hands. That's the foreground, just changing. Silence of awareness is the background. Bring attention to your throat. Make conscious the feelings in the throat. Localize your attention. Don't focus a hard concentration, just a kind of local attention. And let the feelings in your throat become conscious. And go inside the throat if you want. Just wait. Go through the throat to the center of the chest, heart. Localize your attention at the heart. And wait. So irrespective of the type of feeling you have in these physical locations, the silence of awareness doesn't depend on them. But they have significance because they can indicate tension and holding, things like that. Bring attention down to your belly. And wait. Feel the whole area from your throat to the heart to the belly. That's the breath channel. So feel the breathing. In that waiting awareness. Come back to the center of your chest, the heart. Make conscious any sensations there. visualize or name someone you love. On the in-breath, name them, visualize them, and stay centered at the center of the chest. See what happens. So if I were to name my teacher, Luang Por, Luang Por Sumedho, Luang Por, bring that into the center of the chest. On the out-breath, staying centered at the chest, may you be well. So we're stimulating the heart center in a very simple way. So choose one person, choose another. And just see if you can abide at the heart center. You don't have to name anyone, but it's a good way to develop sensitivity in that area. And when you notice you're thinking, awaken to the fact, this thought, and then see what happens if you return to the silence of the heart, just knowing the feeling of the heart. Okay, let's try that one. If you're bodily sensitive, you'll notice when the thinking mind manifests, there's a certain pressure in the forehead, in the eyes, and the temples. And then learning to bring your attention viscerally down through the throat to the heart chakra. Not as an activity to repress thought or to get rid of thought, but just an alternative point of attention. And this takes kind of a persistence, doesn't it? Because the thinking mind is so insidious and habitual and so on. So when you notice the thinking mind, awaken to that, planning or whatever. I just very carefully go through the throat, settle in the center of the chest, see what's going on there. Introduce a loving feeling there, and see if you can hang out there for a while. Notice how waiting affects you, not just that word wait, as opposed to looking for something. Settle attention into the heart, just wait. So waiting at the heart is a kind of surrender. Just allowing whatever feelings there to manifest. So it's like a giving up, becoming, or getting rid of. It's this kind of open-hearted surrender. Okay, let's stop there.
Luang Por. So now I'd like to formally request on the Dhamma talk. Rama Chaloka
Open the door.
Vibhati Sahanbhati Atam Jayana Vivaramaya Santi Pasata
And open the hole.
Raja Tajadika Desi Dhamma Anukha Pima Bhaja
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. Well, thank you for the birthday wishes. I was in Thailand, Singapore, and Malaysia in November, December. I saw Beta in Singapore, and so I usually do 3 retreats there. I usually do 4 retreats a year now, and they're very gratifying for me. Hopefully, helpful for others. One of the things that I do on a retreat, I do interviews, maybe towards the latter half of the retreat. Usually have 3 to 5 people in an interview session. And every now and then, one of the meditators talks about some exalted experience that they've had, almost out of body or extremely refined. And usually, like if it's 5 people, the other 4 people, they're struggling with sleepiness, or they ate too much dessert, or they're more human. And then they, of course, hear about this person having these exalted experiences and, I'd really like that. How can I get some of that? But there is a problem there. If we define meditation as these, we don't have to, but it can become a kind of cultural definition, that we define meditation as almost disembodied experiences, almost disassociated experiences, highly refined. The people I've met who have those experiences, many of them find it hard to go back to their families. I remember one experience where there was a Burmese family, and the mom in the family was incredibly powerful meditator. And she would have these powerful experiences. But then when she went home, she found the noise of the cutlery annoying. She found, she wished, basically she wanted to go back on retreat. So she had experienced a really refined state of mind, but it almost created a duality in her life. There's this part of my life which is meditative, and there's this other part of my life which is responsible family life. And not that she had a bad family, and not that she did it very, very well. But that contrast really struck me. Or the other is sometimes people will have refined experiences, I won't go through all the technical jargon that we have around those things. And then the person can be forever longing for those. Sitting down and I remember 5 years ago, it was incredible. It was just incredible. So is the young longing 5 years later, the same longing? So there's that way where when we talk about meditation, that's not uncommon. Or there's a talk around attainments, which teachers have which attainments, and we define them through various stages and categories. And then sometimes in Buddhist cultures, there's a kind of attainment gossip that goes around, what he's got or what she's got. It's like who's got a Lexus and who's got a Volkswagen, that kind of mindset. And so that happens too. But, and then it can seem, I'm not saying this is true for you, but because I do a lot of retreats and I do meet people who, you know, put a lot of time into their meditation, it is something that's come to mind. So then the like effort and samadhi, those words somehow, how do they apply to ordinary life? About living with my family and fulfilling my responsibilities, being a good citizen, being with an aging body, all that. So that for me, it seems that meditation should somehow participate in the ordinary, and it does for all of us. We do practice mindfulness, but that we find peace in the ordinary, in an ordinary way, not in a disembodied, dislocated, disassociated way of refinement, where we don't really perceive things around us in a normal way. I remember one fellow, he stopped doing retreats at Amaravati. I said, why do you stop doing retreats? He said, I don't like the relocation into ordinary life. Now, he lived a high-powered business life, so I could see that. But how could meditate? What ways could we meditate that would both facilitate our participation in ordinary life, but also be liberating, be truly liberating, not at some superficial sense? So when the other part of Buddhism, when we talk just about the ordinary, of course, we talk about dana and sila. And sometimes meditators dismiss that. You know, they'll say, oh, dana, generosity, and sila, yeah, that's for beginners. But the real stuff is on the cushion. You know, when you're really doing the deal. But, well, maybe. But generosity is an incredibly exalted state of mind, isn't it? To be generous, not just in terms of goods, but in terms of the way I talk to the person at the checkout counter. Oh, I don't talk to the person to the checkout counter. You talk to someone else does that. I don't have any money. But you know what I mean. Or the way I relate to someone who is junior to me in the office, as opposed to the way I relate to someone who's senior, or the way I relate to someone I've got the flu or whatever. So that generosity of spirit to me seems more important than some fantastic meditation experience, because it's something that integrates into my life and makes my life meaningful and joyful. So in terms of, obviously, sila, this lovely structure that the Buddha offers us of not harming with speech, not harming with action, not harming with intent, is a beautiful, beautiful way to live one's life. So these are very, very wonderful kinds of things in the human mind, and they bring a lot of happiness. They bring like I've been a monk now for 50 years, and I haven't done much wrong. I've done stupid things, but not too stupid, right? Just kind of stuff. But I've never really hurt anyone deliberately, or I haven't robbed a bank yet, or these kinds of serious offenses. But seriously, there isn't much memory. That's not just because I'm 77 either. It's because there hasn't been anything really, nothing very exciting in monastic life. Nothing very, very different. It's very ordinary. It's basically Groundhog Day. Day in and day out, just try to do it better. And that is actually very peaceful. So the life isn't built upon, although you might think that monks are out there in their huts, burning up their zafus, the chakras just glowing with energy. No, we're just ordinary. We work, we chat with each other, we have breakfast, we struggle with sleepiness, and we try to get along. So it's kind of ordinary that way. But in the ordinariness, rather than the extremes, one senses the kind of peacefulness which isn't dependent on the extremes of meditation or the extremes of experience. And so the way I've tried to cultivate that ordinariness is around two aspects: silence and the heart, or silence and love. Now, the early years of meditation, for me, were not loving and were not silent. They were basically hanging in with a lot of dark energy, which I had never processed. A lot of fear, a lot of depression, and very, very difficult kinds of mind states. But right from the get-go, Luang Por was teaching me metta, the practices of loving kindness, as the practices of inclusion. We're reading in our breakfast readings right now, we're going through Luang Por Don't Take Your Life Personally. If you haven't read that, it's brilliant. It's such a good book on these things. So right from my early days, I met Ajahn Sumedho about 2 years after I had been a monk, and I was suffering from a lot of fearful, anxious, depressing states of mind, and he kept encouraging me to welcome those, to make mindfulness a loving kind of experience. But it's not the same as a loving experience, because the experience I was having was fear, anxiety, and depression. So then he kept defining for me what is love? And it's the ability to include. And we hear this a lot, but it was very significant for me in being able to endure the darkness of my own subconscious, my own karma, whatever you want. And so that's a part of a practice which wasn't exalted. My goodness, no. It wasn't some refined state of ethereal bliss. It was just the hard grind of the early years of meditation. And many of us have had that. And like if I see a beginner sometimes who's never done a meditation retreat, and I see them suffering with their restlessness again, yeah, I know, I've been there. I get that. So there is that. And that's kind of the beginning of the opening of the heart. Because something like fear or anger, these are deeply felt in the body. Fear deeply impacts your breathing system. Anxiety really gets in there. And the ability to make that conscious, let it come up into conscious, is counterintuitive. It was for me, because my intuition, my habit was more to distract it, get rid of it, analyze it, understand it, judge it, figure it out, get a technique. And Ajahn Chah would say, no, just got to endure. And Luang Por would say, welcome it all. Now, the welcoming was within the framework of the Four Noble Truths, within the framework of seeing this as an object rather than being the subject. He didn't encourage me to be afraid. That's different. He encouraged me to awaken to the whole feelings, all the feelings of fear and anxiety. And I began to kind of get a sense of the heart opening. Not much. It's pretty closed in there. And as I began to realize even early on that this is important. And as I often say, when I talk about those days, I started to rub tiger balm on my chest, trying to get some action going there. Because it felt so hard and so covered over with the kind of musculature of fear, the cellular nature of fear. So right from because of Luang Por Sumedho's kind of real understanding of where I was at, where many of us are at, I began to see that awareness isn't just control and functionality. You know, it's not just I'm functionally moving around from A to B so I don't trip and fall. There is that. But as a contemplative or a meditator, it's about allowing whatever the sankharas bring up to be as they are. And this is not a high state. This is not a high state in that sense of what we perceive maybe as a high state. It's very ordinary, grounded. But what it entailed for me was the slow liberation of this old karma to be released from consciousness, the fear to be released, the anxiety to be released in a way which I could not understand, because the volume and intensity of that was sometimes panic attack kind of stuff. And I couldn't understand, why is that there? And Ajahn Sumedho, Luang Por Chah said, don't try to figure it out. Just stay as a monk, come to morning meditation, come to evening meditation, do your stuff, do a lot of walking meditation, just walk up and down, and don't try to get enlightened. That was probably the best recommendation. Don't try to get enlightened. Just endure, just watch. And so I had a way that I had a teacher, I had two teachers and many friends, where I could kind of give myself to a process which was not peaceful, the experience wasn't peaceful, but what built was a sense of confidence, a background confidence that this is okay. It's okay to endure these fears and anxieties and depressions. But once again, I had a lifestyle where that was not encouraged, where we had chanting, where we had work, where I had really good friendships and support. So the tendency of the mind to believe that was always rectified or brought to a more appropriate perspective by saying, no, this is an object. You're not that fear. And of course, we need those kinds of encouragements all the time. So I don't know about you, if you've gone through those early years of difficulty. I hope not, but I hope you're through it. But if you are if you are experiencing deep sorrow or grief or worry about old age or things like that, make them conscious with an open heart. Let them be as they are. And then you start to see that your abiding in the heart can take on these things. And abiding in the heart, as these things are purified through consciousness, becomes a really, really silent and beautiful way to engage with the world, a very peaceful way to engage with the world. Because from the open heart, from the heart of loving kindness, the response to life is always appropriate. It's always, because it's with life, it's not with the thinking mind. Now, this is not sentimental. Actually, this is very difficult to do, because the The challenge that we have is our tendency to spend most of the time in thought, much of the time in thought. Much of that thought is not really strategic or practical. It's just the ego thinking the way it thinks. And one of the constant considerations that I have had and have is how do you transform that? How do you resolve that? How can in the midst of ordinary life, how can one find silence? Now I can find silence by not paying attention to thought. So I can just like ignore thought and it'll come up again. But that silence somehow doesn't have the same power as the silence of the heart. For me, the silence of the heart is grounded in this heart chakra, which for me is love, or loving kindness, metta, or the Brahma Viharas, if you talk in the kind of Theravada structured way. But this isn't the practice I find. When I came across like Buddhist practices from Visuddhimagga, or the way different traditions are teaching the practices of metta, they were very structured and they have good methods, but somehow that didn't appeal to me. What appealed to me more was that initial insight working with fear and anxiety and all kinds of negative states of mind. So that initial insight wasn't a mental construct and then an idea of, or a prayerful idea, which is quite common in Buddhism. So metta is like, I send metta to my friends and I send metta to my enemies, and we do things like that, which is okay. But I found it much more a visceral, experiential way of paying attention to myself. And that to me was more significant because it was not abstracted into thought and it was silent. So as I started to do that, I saw actually this is very difficult. This is very difficult. And even though, and it's not the difficulty of doing chin-ups or, juggling 6 balls in the air, or it's not that kind of difficulty. It's the difficulty of persistence. It's the difficulty of maybe faith and trust in that. And I found that, why do I trust thought so much? What is it in me that trusts in complaining, or trusts in resenting, or trusts in self-disparagement, or trusts in worry? Why would I do that? I mean, it doesn't seem very logical or intelligent. Well, it wasn't really my choice. It was the way, for various reasons, the mind had been conditioned to move in a certain direction, to automatically pick up postures which were not skillful. And so I saw that, okay, if you're going to do this, this is going to take a long time, but it has to be immediate. I saw that the habits of, in my case, like worry or self-disparagement, these kinds of things, were very, very strong. And my intentions, I think they were grounded in some insight in how this could be done. But the power of these habits was disappointing, to say the least. Disappointing and surprising at how consistent the habits of ego could constantly preoccupy attention, take up all my bandwidth. So I started to make determinations more and more that no, this is a lifetime thing. You just do it. Just trust in the heart. And don't trust in thought. Just trust in the heart. Now, which doesn't mean I don't think. I'm not talking about that. I mean, I occasionally have a thought. I think a lot about woodwork or weaving and things like that. But all that noise of self that is in the thinking mind, that preoccupies our attention, that fills up our bandwidth, that is ego-oriented, it is habitual, that comes up again and again and again, which does not bring a sense of well-being, which does not any sense of completion. It just reiterates itself again and again. I thought, wow, okay, that's a strong habit, those habits, but why should I have faith in that? So I realized some determinations that you make as a contemplative, some determinations take a long time to fruition. Some determinations, like you decide you want some decisions, you want sugar in your coffee, voila, you have sugar in your coffee. That's not like, this isn't it. This is like really, this is marathon kind of stuff. But it's not about me becoming a better person, because that would be still ego. That would still be BuddhaDhamma. It's still about I am inadequate and I have to become a better person with a loving heart and who's more silent. That's not what I mean. I mean just awakening to thinking, knowing thought as an object, maybe knowing the pattern of thinking, and surrendering to the heart. Surrendering to the silence of the feeling in the heart. Stimulating that maybe with Luang Por, may you be well. Luang Por, may you be well. Mom, may you be well. Amasiri, may you be well. Padipa, may you be well. Paul, may you be well. Benny, may you be well. Michelle, may you be well. Nirasa, may you be well. That's very stimulating. That's very, but what it does, it stimulates the heart chakra. It's not an abstract about these different people. It stimulates the heart chakra. I've been doing something you find a bit weird, but someone gave me a birthday present, which is a book of photographs from Sebastião Salgado, who is a very compassionate photographer. He's done these epic projects. One was Genesis, one was Workers. This is Exodus, and this was done in the 90s. He spent 6 years being immersed in various refugee populations in Rwanda, in Angola, in Kosovo, in Mexico and Guatemala, and his pictures are just so sad. He felt he had to document this, the life of the refugee, and it's a massive book. So I love his photography because it is so human. It's so human. It really, something really beautiful about that man. And I wanted to look at that book, and I'm only like 3/4 of the way through, and read the comments, but just look at the pictures and stimulate the heart chakra and see what is sadness and what is compassion. So it's an interesting experiment for me in, okay, where is compassion felt? So I look at whatever I looked at, and then I just try to, okay, where's that in the heart? So when it goes to thought, it goes to sadness and horror, and how can this happen? This should be, and so on and so forth. But when I just look at the picture, and I just allow the picture to touch my heart, and I don't go into thought, then that stimulates the heart chakra. Not too much. I mean, it's a heavy thing to see. So that seems like an odd exercise. I could just sit here and send metta to the people in Angola or Rwanda or whatever, but that's not the same. That's very abstract. This was very personal, very affected me in the heart. But I think in a good way. Not in a kind of, I'm not a I'm not a voyeuristic kind of guy where I'm looking at people suffering in order to have some experience. It's not that. It's how do we stimulate this area in a meaningful way? We get it like grandparents get it with grandkids, or with our teachers, or with our loved ones. But it's stimulated in the way of joy too. So like when one of the monks here has a good meditation or does something well, I get a lot of joy out of that, obviously. And that is a stimulation of the heart. So the heart isn't just one thing. It's dynamic and contextual. But it feels deeply, and it's not alienated. It's not isolated, and it responds. It responds in an appropriate way, and it resolves the thinking mind, because the thinking mind is just very static. It's very it has no creativity in it. Its responses are very, very kind of programmed. But the heart sees, it responds. It can be passive, it can be active. So what I'm suggesting is that if you see meditation as exalted states of mind that you have to attain, I would question that. I would question the validity of that, the usefulness of that. And then if you do have some exalted states of mind, write to me when you go back home with the kids. How does it feel? How is it? How is it? Or if you had something like that, are you looking for that? Are you seeking that? Are you trying to get that? Maybe you've read some experience that the great masters have had, and then you think that's it. Well, any kind of seeking and looking for is already suffering. Bhava tanha, trying to get something. Finally, then, this little meditation that I was suggesting, try this word waiting. It's a very interesting word, because I've just been playing around with the last few months, but so often as meditators, we've either read about great experiences, or we've had great experiences, or we think we'd have to get something, or we're trying to get rid of something. And the insidious nature of tanha creates a kind of tension in our attitudes, in our bodies. Now, the word waiting can be very disarming that way. Just wait. And then this moment becomes conscious in whatever way it wants to become conscious. And then if you apply that to the heart, if this makes any sense, apply that to the heart. Just wait. And you get a sense of surrender, and you start to abide with the heart. And then the rigor for me, the rigor of this doing is returning to the heart. Not by suppressing thought, but by no longer believing in its importance, no longer investing anything in it, not trying to get rid of it. I've tried that for years. That doesn't work. So it is subtle. There's a difference of trying to get rid of thought, being lost in thought constantly, and then waking up every now and then, and making a determination to no longer take refuge in thinking, and taking refuge, in this case, in the heart. And then see what happens from there. So I think that's sufficient for this talk. Does anyone have any questions?
Handamayam Dhammakataya Sadhu Karanda Dhamma Se Thank you, Luang Por. Anyone's got questions for Luang Por? Please click on the raise hand button. Oh, that's Malika.
Hi, Malika. How are you doing? Thank you for your birthday wishes. Unmute yourself. There you go. Okay.
Yeah. You're my first teacher, so I have to wish you every year.
I don't mind.
Ajahn, my question is, can meditation be used as a form of psychotherapy?
Oh, that's a huge question. What is meditation? What is psychotherapy? So that's a massive question. I think if a person has a background in meditation, they know the difference between, this is the therapist, they know the difference between disassociation and presence. They're good listeners, they have compassion. Then any tools which they've developed and skills which they've developed on the meditative path will be implemented in the situation. But as you know, it's not a yes or no, it's not a binary answer. It's very complex. So the most important thing is the compassion of listening. And then whoever is listening, having had a spiritual practice and having gone through the mill of suffering and having some insight around that. And then from the listening and their own experience, trying to offer things up. Having said that, some therapists have very, very, very good tools which they've developed professionally. People who work with PTSD or obsessive compulsive disorders, or, there's a lot of very good professional skills which people have developed. And those are wonderful to be in contact with. So it's not a black and white answer or a binary answer. It's not yes or no. Okay.
Because most of the time, when you have a problem, you go to a monk and they are acting as a psychotherapist because they give you advice that it's going to help. And so
that's out of compassion. But there are situations where I realize that I am I'm not skillful enough. I realize that someone here has a problem deeply rooted in childhood or whatever, and I have therapist friends who I recommend or ask them because I realize I'm not skilled enough. You have to be careful, to think that everyone, you just meditate and you're going to be fine. We thought that early on, but it was never true. Some people shouldn't meditate because they just dissociate and go into states of mind which are not healthy. So there's a lot of very sensitive therapists who have a lot of good skills around. So I'm kind of really cautious about people who have kinds of problems which are more deeply rooted and hidden. I usually say I don't think I'm your guy, but I then recommend other places to go.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's what that's what monks do. They kind of try to be compassionate, listen, and say, oh yeah, okay, what have you tried this or have you tried that? And that's just good human sharing, but coming from the monk's own both understanding of the structures of Buddhism, but also his own experience in the way of practice.
Because Buddha,
but we're not, our brief is not psychotherapy. We ordain for Nibbana. We don't ordain to be social workers. We help as much as possible. But if the monks become professional psychotherapists and they lose the path of Nibbana, then they're not really fulfilling their ordination. And if a person starts to see the monk as his therapist and goes every week for therapy, we usually say, no, that's you got it wrong. That's not our job. Find a professional. Not that we reject people, but that becomes a inaccurate way of describing of what we actually do.
Thank you. I wish you
Okay,
tomorrow.
Malika.
Dhammagiri, we wish you for your birthday tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Okay. Hi, Flora. Are you in Greece?
No, I'm in
You're
Canada.
back home.
Just
Okay, welcome
arrived
back.
Thank you. So warmest wishes on your birthday, Ajahn. And thank you for sharing with us on this very special and auspicious day. My question relates to the book that you were referring to with the photographs from the refugee camps and the what that evokes in you.
Right.
And when we go through situations such as those, where we risk being drawn in too much into the suffering of others, whether it's people in a refugee situation or people needing a psychological assistance, how can we best both serve them and yet draw the line to protect ourselves?
Because you're working a lot with the Afghani families in Ottawa, and you've worked with Cambodians and so on. So you're very front line.
And also working with people.
Yeah, I really do it by making sure I meditate every morning. And like a serious piece of meditation, not just something which is relaxing. So I make sure I have a long meditation in the morning, and I check in to what's actually going on by just being aware. So if there's, now my life isn't stressful right now, so there's no comparison, but then I also just try to really develop the heart, the place of silence in the heart. And then, like, just reading that book, I mean, I don't know what I would do in a refugee camp. Maybe I would just have a nervous breakdown. I don't know what I would do. The people that work there are, to me, they're just magnificent people who can do that. But just as a guy that meditates, I kind of try to see the difference between thinking sadness and emotional compassion here. If I stay here and my mind is running to thinking, then this place informs me about thinking. So awareness of the heart informs me about the thinking because it's a contrast. And in that contrast, I can see you're trying to save everyone, or you're trying to fix everything, or whatever. And then I usually make my best choices from there. Having said that, if you're responsible for two families and you are trying to make sure they're going to get work now, they're highly skilled, but they can't get work, et cetera, that creates a problem mentally where you want to solve that problem. And there isn't any close solution to that. So you have to look at the desire to find a solution. And that desire to find a solution is one way good because it's kind of, because you're a very compassionate person and you work in that field, you try to do a lot. But at some point you see, well, the world is bigger than me, and you know that, but you have to somehow get in touch with the desire mind and feel its tension and learn how you can abide with the heart and not go to the tension of trying to solve something which might be impossible to solve. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. So the thing to do, I think we all know, is to have respite, to get away, to collect, to go on retreat, and then get some balance about it and see how the tension arises, how the stress arises. But on a kind of just a constant way of engaging with life, for me, it's the more it comes from the heart, the more peaceful it is, the less echoes, the less stress there is from that. The more I'm just in the head, and I mean, putting aside the strategic thinking, which I need to do, the less I'm there, the more I'm up there, the more stress I have, and the more the thinking mind just keeps revolving. But yeah, it's not easy. Does that kind of strike a chord?
It does, because if I understand what you're saying, then it's a question of moving the energy down to the heart, really.
Yes, yes, yes,
Divesting the mind of wanting to achieve something.
yes. And you know, like if you were raking leaves and stuff and cleaning out the grounds now in springtime, if you were raking leaves and didn't take a break, you'd be in the chiropractor's office the next day because your back would be out. In the same way, you know, thinking mind, always problem solving, which we know needs a rest. And the rest in the heart is very fulfilling because it's not a distracted rest.
Mhm.
It's not like, you know, watching Netflix and eating fish and chips or something like that. That's like that has its places, I'm sure, but it is a truly restful place. And it also is a way of processing the accumulation of stresses that we have. Because having to return to the heart and relax, having to turn to the heart and relax, is different than distraction, obviously. Distractions are not bad, they're not wrong. So you know, you just think about that. If you don't give the mind a rest,
Mhm.
it's just it gets more and more tight. The problems are more and more tight.
So I suppose the same applies to dealing with people with deep psychological problems.
Yeah, 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 like from the wars and so on. That's where you really need professionals because they, from what I know, professional people, they protect each other. You know, they counsel each other, they debrief each other on the very real possibility of just getting overwhelmed with these stories. So it's you know, we're delicate. We're delicate beings. We're tough, but we're delicate too. Our psyches are very, very delicate. And just reading this book and just hearing the kind of deadness of these people's minds from seeing all this horror. Oh, it's so sad. So sad in that way. So you have to take care of this being and then do what you can. And for me, the way of taking care of that is like wake up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, do yoga nidra for 2 hours. It's, that's my thing. And then everything is kind of nicely in tune. And then I meditate for the rest of the day while these guys do all the work.
Oh, thank you, Ajahn. Thank you. And
Okay.
happy birthday once again.
Nice to see you back. Sorry I didn't answer your letter. I was about to answer.
No, no
Nice to
problem.
have you back.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jeannie, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you? And happy birthday.
Thank you. Did you make it to New Orleans?
No, I canceled that trip, but I did go back to
Uh,
Hawaii with my daughter, which was lovely.
oh, okay. That's even better.
Yeah, we had a lot more beach time and
Okay.
there was a lot of gray in the sky, but it was quite
Uh,
lovely. So,
all right.
while I was in Hawaii, my
Uh-huh.
light beach reading was about the migration due to climate change that's going to happen in the United States in the next decades. And
Right.
what I find is my question is about how to face when I came back, everything had leafed out, and all I could see was that in a few months it'll be ready to burn, which is an imminent threat to me where I live. And so I'm just trying to figure out how to work with the profound uncertainty wherever I look in the future. There's such uncertainty, and yet I
Yeah.
have to make some decisions, about my house, for example, because insurers are dropping policies, etc. Can you give me some guidance? Maybe it's the same, 2 hours of yoga nidra in the morning and
Don't
then
forget the coffee.
the coffee first. Yes.
Um, Well, there's the practical considerations of uncertainty, and there's the emotional impacts of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And somehow you have to unpack those two, because you have to, as much as possible, do what you can to be insured and make sure your place doesn't burn down. And you've had 2 trees fall into it already, so
Yes.
um,
That contributes to a sense of anything.
yeah, twice in a row.
Yeah.
But if you can see the tension of emotional insecurity, that means you have good body awareness. Not in a kind of, not in this kind of focused, I'm looking at this part, but just the whole sense of the body intention.
Yeah.
And then you have ways of recognizing that, and then ways of releasing that. Then that will deal with the fraught nature of the uncertainty. And then the impossibility of really having a super airtight game plan, and realizing that I'm, as uncertainty arises, that's going to be an object which I'm going to have to know emotionally, and then do my best structurally. So if you pay attention to the tension, pay attention to the tension. What I find, one of the reasons I suggest that you go to the throat chakra, is I find that the throat chakra, or just the throat, heck with the chakras, because people ask me, what's that? Just the throat, the muscles in the throat, will quite often hold tensions. And if I allow consciousness to rest there, the throat relaxes, starts to yawn, and then that opens to the heart chakra. And then also into kind of deep belly breathing. So, I mean, I don't know if everyone's the same, but I found that exploration, rather than like focusing in order not to think, which to me, it's not a very good way to meditate, but actually exploring the mechanism of breathing and it's how it works. So you get more and more intuitions about tensions and stresses and so on. So then as I do that, as anyone does that, your attention is automatically more attentive day by day to that area because you've paid attention to it, right? So if you do that quite deliberately, just as an exploration, what is it, where is it now? Or you start to feel uncertainty, where is that in the body? You become more and more conversant with that. You just become better at riding your bicycle, as it were. And then for me, what allows me to rest in the heart? Because it seems to me, I mean, I don't know, this isn't canonical, but it seems to me that things get resolved there. I can, that's the place of peace for me. And the ego doesn't really manifest. The ego manifests in thought. So I find that exploration around life's travails really, really useful because it is in real time, and it can be done in the midst of complexity, in the midst of fires and trees and all of that. Whereas if meditation is just this other that you do to get peaceful and kind of, Buddhism has this funny thing about, like we talk about not wanting to be reborn, first of all, right? I do. Mostly I talk about, I don't want to be in high school ever again. That to me is like, no, please, not high school. And so, it's a kind of, or kind of getting away, or, it's a kind of via negativa, almost nihilistic thing that goes on with Buddhists, and I'm guilty of it too. Whereas this is not, it's not separating yourself. I mean, I do yoga nidra on my own. I don't go over to Padipa's kuti and lay down on his floor. I mean, I do have solitude, and I like solitude. But the idea that meditation is a separate activity, well, I think the meditation that one does should be something that integrates when you're talking with the insurance guy.
Mhm.
or, you know, when you hear the fire warning from the California Fire Department, that it integrates with that. And these kinds of practices embodied in this structure, not to become really, really tranquil, but to be like aware in this kind of peaceful way in the heart, then they just play out as the tensions arise.
Mhm.
And then the others like have good friends who know about insurance policies and who have
Yeah.
hoses.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Because there's kind of a co-mingling of in the face of the incredible uncertainty, it feels impossible to make a right decision. So I think
Yeah,
that that's where the tension, a lot of the
yeah.
tension from that. But it's
Yeah.
okay. You just moment by
Well,
moment.
any decision you make will be wrong.
That's right. That's
You know,
correct.
you'll
Yeah.
make decision A, you'll be down that road that should have done B.
Right. Yeah. No,
Or
that's
you'll make
right.
decision B and you say should have done A.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just gotta act. I mean, it's easy for me, but we, you know, we haven't had any. We had fires for the first time, smoke fire here in Ontario from Quebec. I mean, Northern Ontario has. And I got a sense of what you must feel in California. We just had bad air, what, for 2, 3 days? It wasn't
Yeah.
long. And I went to Portugal. And then that air came to Portugal.
Right.
But
There's no, yeah.
you know, I got a sense, yeah, that's you can't even breathe. And those are very, very serious things. So you have to deal with them. But if you can deal with that the tension in the body and in the heart, you have a place where you go to.
Yeah.
Then
Okay.
then you just take it as it comes, I guess. Yeah. Move to
Yeah.
Ontario.
There's nowhere to go. No, as
Nowhere
my
to
father
go.
would say, there's
Yeah.
no safe way every time he
The
passed the
fires
grocery
are
store.
everywhere.
Yeah. So it's okay. I mean, that's kind of acknowledging that is actually liberating in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
There is
That
no
any
right
choice is
decision.
impossible.
Yeah.
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 And you know, if you listen to Luang Por, that's what he's telling us all the time.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
this feeling of impossibility is like this. And
Right.
if you keep integrating that, it's fabulous. It's a fabulous way to practice. All right.
Sad.
Okay, nice to
Yes.
see
Thank you
you.
very much. Nice to see
Okay.
you.
Anyone else? We've covered it all.
Luang Por, there is a question here in the chat box. So do you have time to?
Okay, please.
Okay, this person, Lee, the question is asking, Dear Luang Por, for silence, do we observe the silence or being the silence? Thank you.
Well, if you think about it, it's not silence. Don't think. That's it. Because once you start to think about it, you're not silent. What is silence? Just listen. No thought. So see silence as no thought. And then if you start to think about it, then you know that's doubt. And doubt is thinking. And thinking begets more thinking. So that's why I say listen to sound and wait. And there's silence. So the philosophical mind isn't satisfied with that and starts to philosophize about being silent, and that's just thinking. And that's a kind of it's the conundrum of the intellectual. The intellectual finds security in an answer, but the attachment to that then begets more questions. And the questions beget more answers, beget more questions. Whereas someone who just has faith just says, oh, yeah, no thought, and just abides in that. And there's no philosophical questioning. Intellectuals and philosophers, you're someone who has a PhD in philosophy, my sympathies. I mean, that's a really hard thing to get beyond all that thinking, all that all those structures that thinking mind creates, because the language of liberation is silence. The eloquence of the Buddha is silence. That's really where it's at. So I hope that helps, Lee.
Yes, this person Lee has just given me a thumbs up and sadhu.
Okay, great. Okay.
So that's all the questions we have for this evening, Luang Por.
Okay. Shall we finish? Do you have the Buddha's words on loving kindness? Can you put that on the screen
Yes,
for us?
we will finish. Yes, we will. And we want to take this moment to also offer the dedication to you in honor of you and your birthday, Luang Por.
Okay.
Many
No
of
more
us cannot be
forgiveness.
there in person.
We've done forgiveness.
No. But know that we all love and care for you from this part of the world, Luang Por.
Okay, you go for it.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world.
Okay. So we'll close the session by chanting Araham. Araham Sama Sambuddho Buddha Swagato Bhagavata Dhamma Namaskar Supadipano Bhagavato
Okay, my friends, go safely. Nice to see you again. See you next month, huh?
Happy
Okay,
birthday,
ciao.
Luang Por.
See you. Thanks, Peter. Nice to see you. Okay, bye-bye.